Hey, welcome to Debuffed. This will be the EverQuest Newscast for October 9th, and of course we will be talking about EverQuest news. Tonight we have myself, Steelheart, we have to my upper left, Liette, and we have to my upper right, Nautica. Tonight we'll be discussing some of the latest news that they've released concerning the EverQuest EverQuest news. Excuse me for that. Concerning the EverQuest news, and we'll play a couple videos. So, the latest roundtable discussion was released today, and this one personally brings back some really good memories for me from EverQuest 1. But the poll, so to speak, is: do you want to see in-game holidays in EverQuest Next? And the four choices are: I'd like to see some of the ones that already exist within the franchise from EQ1 and EQ2. I'd like to see some in-game holidays that fit the new world and lore, not real world events. So I guess that'd be like not Christmas or Halloween or stuff like that. Third choice is: I don't like it when fantasy games celebrate the real world holidays, even disguised with game lore. And then of course the last choice is: I love it when we can celebrate real world holidays with something matching in game. So that is the latest poll that was released today. So discuss. Liette, what do you think about that?
I love any excuse to party, so in-game parties are pretty fantastic to me too. I don't really care what occasion it is. I was pretty neutral on this one, though. I'd really like to see them pick up things like Frostfell, like what they did in EQ2, because goodness knows that was fun. And gives the community a chance to have more to do than just raids or dungeons or node farming. So, yeah, I'm all for it in any form there is.
I remember Frostfell. I remember in EQ2 at one point, it started off as a little quest thing, but then they added like a small little Christmas continent with presents, and it was really neat. It was a fun distraction, especially when the game was about 6, 7, 8 years old. It was really neat thing. Took up some time. It was fun. Very Christmassy, so to speak. Nautica, what do you think?
I think having holidays in games is a big hallmark because, when you have the same thing going on, and if you're doing the raids and everything else, the holidays kind of breaks up that monotony, as you're playing the game. So, I think games like World of Warcraft did a great job where they put mounts and they put achievements and, things like that to where it breaks up that, okay, it's time to raid this week, guys. There's nothing else going on. Oh, hey, there's a new, dungeon for Christmas, or there's a new thing for Easter and stuff like that. So I think it kind of keeps people still attached to the game, and it's always fun to just get a group together to go, hunt a bunny or something.
Yeah, I remember personally, it's a very vivid memory for me because I hadn't been playing the original EverQuest for long, and they came out with a Halloween holiday event, and I believe I was in my upper 20s, mid 30s, and there were several of us grouped together. Yeah, this before becoming a guild leader. This was just out having fun, and I remember that they had scarecrows, and they'd have a giant come by every once in a while. It was a Halloween event. But what was really neat about it to me was, especially at the level I was, that some of the mobs dropped rings and helms that I could actually use as upgrades at the time. So it was pretty cool, and back then, you were more attached to games than you are nowadays. So it's really hard for me when I out leveled some of that Halloween gear to get rid of the gear. It was fun times, and it was packed. The whole server was packed. It was really good times. So I guess in a few weeks we'll see what they think about it as far as what they have their plans for, and we'll be discussing that in a couple weeks. So this last week, SOE released one of their developer diaries on Landmark. And can we get that video?
Hello and welcome to the first of our dev diaries for EverQuest Next Landmark. I'm Terry Michaels. I'm the senior producer on EverQuest Next and EverQuest Next Landmark.
I'm Jeff Butler. I'm the creative director for EverQuest Next Landmark.
And we're here today to talk to you about the first of our topics, which is break it, take it, make it. It's all about going out in the world, what you can find, what you can collect, and how you'll use those things inside the world.
Harvesting.
Yeah, harvesting, collection, all that sort of stuff. When you go out in the world, there's more than 50 different resources right now that we've defined.
Correct. More than 10 metals, 10 types of gems, all broken down into 5 tiers, which roughly correspond to the depth within the world that you actually find those things.
Okay.
So the point is, through the progression of the game, you go out and you harvest these materials, the metals, the gems, the wood, so on and so forth. Use those to build tools, and those tools allow you to more rapidly explore through the world and to harvest better and better items as you dig deeper and explore through the world.
Right, and you can also find objects and
recipes,
crafting recipes and things like that, that you can also use those resources to help create the things that you see in your imagination.
Absolutely. You want to take those resources that you've harvested and the better tools that you've created, the recipes you've gathered, you want to take them back to your claims to help you build and to help you craft.
Right, and so talking about taking things back to your claim, the players have a limited inventory, much like people are used to in almost every game.
Absolutely, to begin with.
Yeah, to begin with. So, and you can expand that by things you find in the world, things you craft as well. But there are other kinds of inventory as well. Can you talk a little bit about those?
3 kinds of inventory. Your personal inventory, which as you said can be expanded. The inventory that you have on your claim. You'll be able to build chests and place them on your inventory, take the stuff that you've harvested and gathered, the things you've crafted, and dump them off into the chests at your claim. Now, all of those resources would be there at that location. Right. So we have a third concept, which we call the vault. Anywhere you can build a vault or where you can access one, you can load up the vault, you can go someplace else where there's another vault, and when you open it up, the things that are in the vault are shared there in all of those locations. So if I want to go to your claim to help you build, I can simply pull the resources out of my vault if you've actually crafted one there.
Oh wow, so that seems really powerful for cooperative building.
Very helpful.
And the vault is also, we can expand that over time as well. That's so that players can have more and more storage inside the game.
Correct. All 3 of those inventories can be expanded in one way or another through progression.
Oh, there's a lot of use for all of the resources that you get, not just talking about the inventory and the things you do on your claims and the building, but it's an integral part to what Landmark is going to be. So people are going to want to go out there and find these things.
Absolutely. It's all about progression through the game.
Okay. Well, that should give you some new ideas and new thoughts on what we're doing for EverQuest Next Landmark in this particular area. I look forward to talking with you for the next Dev Diary, which is going to be about globetrotting and why you go out in the world and explore, not just for collection. So thanks for joining us, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, that's pretty interesting. So basically what they're saying is you're going to be able to get resources much like we do in most games, but in most games they're level based, either based on your harvesting level, so to speak, or your character level. But as we well know in EverQuest Next, we have a horizontal progression versus a vertical progression. So it sounds like from what they're saying, the resources are going to be available in tiers, but based on how deep you go into something, whether it be maybe a forest or digging into the earth, so to speak. So how do you think that's going to work, Nautica?
Well, it sounds kind of interesting. I kind of like I want to see how the vertical kind of works, because I think it's going to be kind of cool to go down in the levels and progress. But the vault is the one I think is really, it's like your bank is going to be accessible anywhere, almost where you go. And I kind of want to see how that is, like, being able to, be able to go from town to town, or, if I go harvest somewhere, and I think this is a problem in a lot of games, is where you go harvest somewhere way far from town, you got to go get up all your minerals and gather everything up to go back, to a main city and to do your crafting. It'd be nice to go to a small town or somewhere that's accessible, so I don't have to go back and forth so much. So I'm hoping that the vault concept won't be just like we're going to have 3 vaults into 3 big cities, but hopefully they'll have vaults throughout all the different little towns and everything else, so you can go out and craft and be able to bring it back, or to your claim, as they call it, to do all your harvesting and to do all your crafting.
Right. Now, Leah, how do you think that's going to work with player cities? Because I know a lot of people are excited about player cities with EverQuest Landmark.
I guess my first question is, well, we're going to be building it, so I guess you could put your vault where you want it. I love the idea of big projects and being able to share, given that's what we do with our guilds so often, make sure that we're sharing those resources where needed. So from a planning and economic perspective, I love it. I think that's a really strong tool to give us. Um, and I'm excited to see where it'll take us. We need a little more detail to know exactly what kind of control we'd have over it, aside from, oh yeah, you can have people help you with that, but can you have a whole guild help you with it? So some questions we need answers to there.
Good point. Good point. Now, we've heard in prior discussion, or talked about in prior discussions, and heard in prior videos released by the EQN team, that the further you go down, i.e. digging through the ground, different tiers, the more dangerous it's actually going to get. Kind of like its own, well, zones, basically. Without zone walls, just gets more difficult as you go down. So are we talking true risk versus reward?
It's a great question. That's one of the things I was actually in the very first video back in August when they showed them able to break a hole in the ground. If there's PvP going on, I think it's from a PvP mindset. If there's PvP going on and I can break the ground below them, does that put them into a whole new zone where there's harder monsters? So I can go and, I guess you can say, troll people and like, hey, I'm going to come break the ground below you because I know all the monsters down there are going to kill you. So I'm kind of wondering how that whole progression in zones is going to go with, being able to have voxels and really have a true destruction-based game, I guess.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Now, inventory, and they stated in that video that everybody's going to have limited inventory. We know Sony is obviously there's station cash involved in a lot of things. We've already been told that people will use station cash to purchase maybe upgraded land plots or maybe initial land plots. So do you foresee having to purchase, and this is for Liette, do you foresee having to purchase additional inventory slots versus earn them?
Well, of course. That's just one cash cow that I think will be great for Sony and frankly good for the player. I think that if they add in a way to earn it would be good as well, perhaps with an expandable inventory that you pay for. You can then modify it by having specific slots for specific materials. Maybe that's a really nice way to give yourself achievements after you've expanded it. There's lots of ways they can handle that. I would definitely foresee them using station cash, though, to initially get a bigger inventory. Absolutely.
It makes sense, and I know you played a little bit. There was a game a while back, and I believe it still exists, called Ruins of Magic, where you would have, I think you started out with a bag and a resource bag, but then they would actually make you rent bag space if you wanted to have extra space in your bags. And then the game was inundated with vendor loot. So every time you killed something, it went into your bag. You were actually, I won't say forced, because you weren't forced to keep the vendor loot, but obviously you wanted in-game money. So you would keep as much as you could. You'd rent bags. It was like $10 for 3 months. Now, I don't see them going that way, but it does kind of segue into another personal pet peeve of mine, and that is vendor loot. As far as resources and loot and mob drops, what do you see? Do you see, harken back to the old EverQuest 1 days, where everything that dropped was usable in some way by the community, or are we looking at the possibility of another vendor loot game?
Wow. I don't know. I mean, that's a hard question, especially in this situation, because EverQuest, Sony with EverQuest Landmark and stuff, they're kind of redeveloping how we play games in a way with the whole voxel system and kind of going with a high definition Minecraft feel. And I'm seeing them, hey, we want you guys to create monsters next, and I can see them saying, hey, start creating epic items for raid bosses and stuff, and I can start seeing them go that route. But I don't think they're going to go with a massive. I don't think they're going to go with a massive vendor loot system. It doesn't seem like they want the game to be that cluttered. Especially, I think, for doing a game like Landmark. I think we'll have the items. I think we'll have drops, but I think everything will be usable. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, hey, I killed something that gave me 10 gold, a rusty sword, and a helmet that doesn't even have any stats on it.
No doubt. Leah, what do you see? What do you hope for?
I'm not really opposed to vendor loot. Vendor loot has been in every game that I have played in recent memory. And okay, as long as they give me a sell junk button, I'm cool. Though I am really curious how they're going to manage with, if they have dynamic monsters, are they going to add the orcs and drop their rusty sword and their loincloth? Because there are some things I just don't want to touch. You know what I mean? So there's that to think about. But if they're talking about this big immersive world, that's one way to do it. If the orc's hanging out and was gnawing on a apple or something, it'd be cool if you did get that half of an apple, and you can decide whether you want to go, ew, chuck it at the next orc, start a fight, or, take it and make a pie or something. I don't know, that's a little sketchy. But I like useful loot. I think it adds to the lore and adds to your immersion in a game. I do not like when you kill a wolf, getting his pelt and 5 gold and a rusty spoon. And, what? Now my dogs eat a lot of stuff, so maybe. But that's stretching it for me. I'm thinking in Landmark, though, that vendor loot would ultimately defeat the purpose of, 1, the smaller inventory, and 2, the whole purpose of Landmark, which is world building. How does straight up junk and vendor loot add to world building, aside from just giving you more junk to clutter you up? Why not, when you kill the fox, just get the pelt, which you can then turn into leather, that kind of thing. So I'm hoping ultimately in Landmark, at least, they'll ensure it's useful stuff that drops and not just vendor loot based.
I have to agree. I remember in the original EverQuest getting my first rusty longsword, and that was a big deal for me because it was an upgraded weapon. But lo and behold, after learning how to weaponsmith a little bit, I discovered that I could take that rusty sword and turn it into a, I don't remember what it called, a dull sword or something like that, by crafting in a few components. So it's really neat to see everything that dropped from the mobs in the game to be usable, and if you couldn't use it personally, you could always sell it to somebody else, make a little change, and they used it. But I guess we'll see. Maybe it'd be a great roundtable discussion in the future for them. Alright, so speaking of roundtable discussions and videos, a couple weeks ago the poll was, should friends list be account based or character based? And today they have released their video, and that kind of, I didn't really pick up a solid decision on it. Maybe I missed it in there, but well, look at it yourself.
Hi, my name is Omid Daryani. I'm the Senior Brand Manager of the EverQuest franchise. I'm here today with my favorite roundtable participant, Terry Michaels. Terry, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm the senior producer on EverQuest Next and EverQuest Next Landmark. And basically my role is to make sure that the team has everything they need to make sure they can make these amazing games. So I'm constantly, talking with the community, talking with you, working with the team, making sure everybody has what they need. So.
Awesome. So today our question was about friends lists. Should friends lists be account-based or should they be character-based? And for some people, for people who don't play a lot of MMOs, can you talk a little bit about like what the difference between those is and why we're asking this question?
Right. So it comes down in a lot of ways to a matter of convenience. Right, if you have an account-wide friend, you don't have to manage all your separate friends lists on each individual character and make sure that, if you and I are playing the game together and we're real-life friends, then I would have to know all of your characters. Being able to do it account-wide makes it really easy, one-stop shopping sort of thing, and that's sort of the difference between them. But when you do account-wide, it takes away some of your privacy if you want to play a character and you don't want other people to know that you're on.
Why? For someone who doesn't know, why would you want to play a character and not have all your friends know?
Well, I mean, there are many reasons, but one of the easiest ones is if you're, say for instance, you're a hardcore raider in EQ, which I was at one point in time. There were times where I didn't want that stress or pressure of having to do what the guild wanted to do at a given time. So it was nice to have a character that I could log in and play for a half an hour or an hour casually with other friends and not be burdened with that constant request to do something bigger or something with a larger time commitment. So people actually preferred their privacy in some of those cases like that. That's just one of the reasons.
And so, yeah, and I think that's kind of what we saw in the poll and in the discussions was that people were looking for, they thought that account-based was a fine idea, but they definitely wanted that option to be able to have character-based friends lists as well.
Right, and that was sort of the direction that we went as well when we were thinking about it, and that was sort of where we were leaning, which was the idea of having the ability to have account-wide friends, but it's sort of an opt-in thing, so that if you requested me as an account-wide friend, I'd have to approve it before we'd show up to one another in that way. So if I wanted to keep my anonymity, I could, but I could also have the convenience,
right.
which is a really cool way of doing this. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, and if you really want convenience, it's there for you.
So yeah, so we're looking at this as a convenience thing primarily, and so that's where we're going. Is we're looking at character based or account based, letting you guys make the decision. One of the things that we've been discussing too is, does it make sense for there to be other things that are traditionally character-based that could become account-based?
Right, and so this, because of this sort of change in the way we're playing the game, the way we're creating the game, the multi-classing, all of these ideas, the emergent AI, right, we're reevaluating a lot of the things that people take for granted as the way they work in MMOs. So we're actually interested. Do you guys have other ideas for things that have been stereotypically character-based that you would like to see account-based?
Yeah, something like maybe your faction unlock, right?
Yeah, what factions you have open to talk to, or even like what classes you've found and unlocked for your main character. Would you want those to be available on an alt that you created?
Yeah, that seems like a fantastic question.
Yeah,
we would really love to hear about that. So tweet us, hop on the Roundtable forum, discuss that. Just write on this question. We would love to hear your ideas about other ways that we can make things account-based that have traditionally been character-based.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for us today. Thanks very much to Terry for joining us, and thank you guys very much for participating in the Roundtable. It's always helpful, and we enjoy the conversation. So thanks very much.
See you next time.
Okay, so should friends lists be account-based or character-based? Liette.
In a game that has horizontal progression in which you make your one character who can be any class you want, unless you're into having different characters for different looks, I think it's a completely unnecessary question. Because if you're just playing the one character, as I suspect many of us will do, I don't think it's really going to matter. I like account-based though, so that I don't have to track you down through all your different renditions of you. But that's a convenience factor for me because I tend to track people down a lot, stalker Liette, sorry. So that's just my opinion. I'm cool with either way, whatever the community wants on that. But again, convenience factor for me, though I, again, don't think it'll really matter. I'm going to have my one character with the cool hair, and that's all I need, so you can find me there.
So Nautica, why wouldn't you want a friends list to be account based?
I'll tell you a reason why. From a PvP aspect, because I've played like Darkfall and a lot of PvP games, and sometimes you want to get to know your enemy and kind of have spies in there, and so that people don't know, hey, these guys are going to raid this town. You tell your friends on the other guild and say, hey, I have my spy in here. They're going to go raid this place, or they're going to take out this area.
Oh, you cheater!
Go now. You know, the funny part is
playing Eve.
You know, that's the funny part is that happens a lot in the PvP areas, where if you're a PvP heavy guild and you know you're out there slaughtering people left and right, a lot of those guilds have spies in other guilds and are reporting information on a daily basis to the guild. And I mean, there's just huge amount of information of who's left, you know, the guild that day, who's joined, is there any promotions, you know, have they went out harvesting, are they changing their plans on what town to raid, or are they just going to be a defensive, you know, guild for right now? You know, there's so much information in the PvP end of that you'll see a lot of PvP guilds not want to see account based, so they can go out and spy on you know, other clans and stuff on what they're doing.
And you know, a minor version of that was, you know, we've been playing some Battlefield 4 beta and Battlefield 3 before that, and there's been a couple times where, as a sniper, you know, I like to play snipers. As a sniper, I'll find a really, really good spot, and it's very defensible because it's way, way behind lines, or you know, on our side. And every once in a while, after I've made a good amount of kills, one of my own teammates will suddenly appear and do everything they can to stand in front of my scope. And I finally figured it out after a couple weeks. I'm like, why do people do this? You know, this is my team, but what it was people on the other team were because you can switch teams. People on the other team were switching over and standing in front of my scope. So I couldn't snipe them. You know, from a guild leader aspect, I guess it's almost a control thing. You want to know what your peeps are doing. You want to know if the new person who just got in the guild is actually has another tune in another raid guild, and they're just looking to try to equip a secondary tune in your guild with raids. So from a guild leader point of view, you want to know stuff like that, because if somebody comes into your guild and it's no intention of making it their main guild, then you really don't want to waste a lot of time and resources on them when there's other members that do want to be part of your guild, so to speak. So I would have to lean toward, I would rather see it be account based and mandatory, but it sounds like they're going to give people the choice, so maybe guild leaders can make those decisions for their people. Who knows?
Real quick on that though, I think that you might start seeing things like that for the fact that, you know, you just kind of jogged my memory, you know, like for WoW, you know, to create an officer, you can require them to have a BattleNet authenticator. You know, so you're starting to see where in games now they're starting to be able to put restrictions like that, where you can say if you're going to join the guild, all your account has to be account-based friends list for the guild leader, and not be a character-based. So I can start seeing restrictions like that, because I think, you know, WoW, and you're going to start seeing other games where they're going to have these type of security measures around guilds, which I think is a good thing. And I think it kind of makes them decide of, you know, if you want to be this part of the leadership, or you want to be part of this part of the, you know, guild, then you have to show us everything we're asking for, kind of an audition.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And it's not uncommon for guilds to put those type of restrictions, especially if it's a raid guild on their raiders, or especially officers. Leslie, what do you think about that?
I would like it from a management standpoint. I think that would make life a lot simpler. And again, I like not having to track you down across your umpteen alts. You know, today you feel like playing a chick. Okay, great. And yesterday you're a barbarian warrior dude. Whatever. That's great. But, you know, if I want to invite you to something, it would be nice to be able to go, hey, barbarian warrior now playing a chick. You want to come do something? Because inevitably I find if you don't get in touch with them, they go, oh, I missed out. So I think it can be a good thing, too, to just on an interpersonal level to have that available. And I think ultimately a good way to handle it might be leave it up to the player, whether they allow the account-based friendship or just per actual character. In which case, again, you know, from a guild leader standpoint, you can have requirements if they're planning to be an officer or in your, that works fine and is fair to everyone. So they have the option, you have the option.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, guys, that's all we have for tonight. It's going to be a little shorter cast tonight. So make sure to stop in tomorrow night, same time, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time for Debuffed Wildstar News. And then Friday night we'll have a pretty good night, so make sure to check our schedule. It's posted on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/grievance, and it'll be a schedule of our events. So we will see y'all next week.
Good night.
Bye.
Hey.